The core purpose of data analytics is to identify patterns that impact business strategy. The vision is not to just dig into the numbers, rather, to identify patterns and make sense out of them. This is where exploratory data analytics comes in. Hi everyone, this is Dr. Humera and I'm your data and AI mentor. In the previous module, we learned how you can use descriptive analysis where you use statistical formulas to uncover patterns from the data. That helps a lot, but now we want to take it to the next level. In this module, we will cover exploratory data analysis to uncover further insights into the data. So let's go to our Amazon dataset and explore more insights. We are now at our Amazon dataset, and recall that in our previous session, we worked on the rating counts. We were looking at the ratings and we identified that some of the ratings were not very good. When we did a sorting of the sheet, according to ratings count, we identified that there were a few ratings which were in 2, between 2 and 3, or 2 and 2.9. And then there were a few hundred that were below 4, above 3 and below 4. And then there were many which were above 4. Let's focus on the first few ratings which are below 3, so in the range of 2 to 2.9, and try to identify what could be going wrong here. I also want to emphasize here that sometimes a few things need to happen manually, and you really need to look into the data. You can't automate everything. You'll see in a minute what do I mean by this. So let's first extract the first few rows from our data for which the rating count is between 2 and 2.9. So first of all, we need to identify which parameters are important for this specific exercise. Since we are trying to uncover why the ratings are low for these cases, we need to identify which parameters we should look at. And if we read through the parameter names, we can identify that the review title and review content, these two parameters actually make sense. So let's try to have a look at these parameters, or what do these users say. Again, and this is basically what I mean, that you need to literally read through these comments before you go into any kind of automation. For example, if I start reading the first comment, let me increase the size here a bit. The first review is bad quality, amazing product. That's strange for a 2 rating. Let's see further what is the review content. The heating capacity is 0. Moreover, I have initiated return request. No one has come to collect it. Best heater at this price. Quality is very good. Suggest everyone to purchase. It seems like it's not just one rating. It's more than one rating combined in this cell. Let's continue and see if a similar situation happens in the other as well. So for example, here it says nice product, I recommend to buy. Again, not a very good comment for, or I must say not a very relevant comment for a 2.3 rating. But if I read further, it says defective product, waste of money, very, very bad, portable, waste of money, is not working. I am having this feeling that the title and the content of the reviews is not coming from one single person, rather it's a combined review from multiple people. It's quite possible that since there were 2 people who did some rating, there were 13 people who gave this rating, so it's quite possible that all their comments have been combined together. So if we go ahead with this using just Google Sheet or just spreadsheet, it will become very difficult for us to identify where is the cutoff point, because ideally there should be a cutoff point which can tell us where the first comment has finished and the second comment is starting, but we don't see anything like that. But we are seeing a similar trend. It starts with very good product and then battery life is 0. Then it says good and then where is switch on button, and so on and so forth. Good product, battery life is so bad, and it seems like maybe after a comma the review has changed, but it's not really true because it's possible that somebody puts a comma in their own comment as well. So here, this is what I mean. You need to look into the data and you need to identify what do you do with this. So what are the options that we have here? One of the option is to manually look into the data, clean it up more. So you remember the clean up the data part. We are kind of back to that cleanup part. So one option is to literally identify what are the different comments about and manually try to identify. And this is actually a very common practice in real companies. What we do, we really look into the customer data and manually read it. Sometimes that's the best solution because you are able to read full sentences and you are able to identify what the customer means instead of having an aggregate of everything. But the other option that we can do right now is also to try to see if there is a repeating problem with the data or the product. So is there a problem which is mentioned by the users again and again? And one of the solutions to identify this is to generate a word cloud. Google Sheets does not allow a word cloud generation in as part of the default tools. There are add-ons that you can add to Google Sheet, but you can also use one of the many free available word cloud generators and see which words are appearing most of the time. So actually what we would like to do here is to copy all the comments which are in our desired category. So from 2 to 2.9, we'll copy this and we will take this to a word cloud generator. So let's open a new tab and search for a word cloud generator. Word cloud generator. There are many free options available. Let's take the first one. So we have a free word cloud generator. Please remember never to put customer data in free tools or tools where you don't control the access to the data because you need to be very careful of the user's privacy. For our purpose, we can assume that these are user comments, but really no private information is here. We are not entering user names, so it should be okay. But of course, it's always a good idea to check and be careful. So now I paste all the comments that I have copied, and now we can specify, we can already see how many words have been mentioned how many times. So for example, the term product came in 27 times, the term good comes in 17 times, working, water, bad, quality, these are the counts for each one of these. You can you can decide which ones you want to keep or which ones to remove. You can also, for example, see how many words do you want to generate. 50 is a good size for word cloud. You can increase or decrease that, and then you can already scroll down and see the word cloud for this configuration. So of course the biggest count is for product, and you can see that this is the product has some problem. People are representing product, they are using the term product again and again. Good, we know that there was a problem with the comments and some comments were merged. So you see good, we can actually go back and identify that we don't want to see the term good over here. And then what else? So water is something. Then we see battery is a big word. Money was a problem. Received properly, maybe it was not received properly, and so on and so forth. So something like replacement and so on and so forth. So here we can quickly glance through the word cloud and identify that people are complaining about the battery, people are complaining about the cost, the money that they have spent, something about delivery because we are talking about received. But of course, we don't know if they were saying it was received properly or it wasn't. But this actually gives us a good direction that this is a problem area that we may have. Just for the sake of completion, let's expand this a little bit and see if we get something better if we include, in addition to ratings with account 2, and in addition also ratings with a higher count. So let's not take all of these, but let's take a lot of 3.x as well. And if we now come back, I don't want to see this, and I paste this here. Of course, as you can see, you can paste or you can also import the data as a comma separated value file as well. And now it is a lot more, and you can see which are the words which have been identified. So again, the word good is occurring a lot of times, actually the most time, and then product, and then again quality, use, one, working, price. And let's see. If we look over here, we are able to see that the trend has remained almost the same. So from 2 rating to 3 rating, people are still talking about something about money and product. Of course, they are talking about the product, and there is definitely a problem because people are talking about either it's a good product or not. And then people are talking about still we see battery, we see charging, we see something about usefulness, something about power. But again, let's not push it too far, because now the ratings are getting better, and it might be a good idea to now look into the ratings and the comments manually. I now want us to take a step back. What is it that we are trying to do here? More specifically, from a business point of view, what is the business question that we are trying to answer here? As you can imagine, this is all surrounding the customer satisfaction. We discovered that there were certain ratings which were bad, not good, they could be better, and we started digging deeper into the reasons behind those bad ratings. Of course, this customer satisfaction and this customer input will, in next step, can also be used for improving our services, adding new features, and so on and so forth. But the bigger underlying scope of our problem right now is customer satisfaction. I want to switch gears a little bit right now. Customer satisfaction is one of the things that you can do on this data. Let's have a look at what else can we do with this data. Here we see that we have products, product categories, pricing, in addition to the ratings and customer feedback as well. So we can now look at the same data from a very different point of view as well. We may want to identify which of our products are selling the most, which of the products are doing the best sales, which one of these are generating the best revenue. That's from a sales point of view, another analysis that we can do. To pause the customer satisfaction analysis for a few minutes and explore a bit more on what kind of product categories do we have, which ones are doing the best, which ones are not selling that much, and so on and so forth. For this purpose, we are going to use pivot tables. How do we insert a pivot table is by clicking on this top left corner, you select the whole data and you go to insert and you insert a pivot table. It asks you where to create the pivot table, in the current sheet or in a new sheet. It's a good idea to create a new sheet. And now it's also a good idea to rename this pivot table. So let's call this pivot table as the pivot table of category sales. Pivot tables are there to do a lot of calculations for us. They help us in manipulating the data by aggregating them, counting them, getting the average, and you can also segregate the data with respect to their values, for example, categories in our case. So let's recall what is the question that we are trying to answer. We are trying to see for the categories which one is doing best, which one is not doing that great. And now let's rephrase this question. How do we identify which categories are doing better and which categories are not doing that great? Is one simple answer could be by counting how many times something is coming up over here. So for example, here we can see that there are certain categories for which we have a lot of products, and there are certain categories for which we do not have a lot of products. Although we need to be very careful that here we don't have exact sales count. So we have no idea if people are purchasing something here or not, but we know that these are the categories which are available on Amazon along with their pricing. So let's start counting how many categories has or which category has more products and which categories do not have that many products, because this will allow us to decide if we want to keep those categories or not, if we want to invest more in the categories that are doing better, that have more products, versus those categories which don't have many products. So again, what was the question that we want to answer? For the categories, how many times is each category occurring? Now we come back to our pivot table, and here we can fill in the rows, columns, and the values. Starting with the rows. Here you will add category variable as part of the rows. As soon as you'll do that, you'll see that all the categories which were there in the data set, they have been uniquely represented over here. So if some category was occurring multiple times, here you see it once. And now you can add a new column, and here in this column you can specify how many times is each of this category occurring. So for that, what you can do is for values, you can add again category, and this time you can add a count. Count or count A. Count A is also good because it counts those elements which are non-numeric as well. So for example, here you can see that this category, car and motorbike, air purifiers and ionizers, has only one element in this. On the other hand side, this category is occurring 233 times in the data set. So we can actually already start seeing some trends here. It's a good idea to sort this in order of count so that we can see which category is occurring the most and which lesser. It's always a good idea to make a copy of the pivot table before working on it, because the pivot table is attached directly to the data and it keeps on updating itself automatically as well. So if you don't copy the values here to another sheet, it's quite possible that if you make any changes here, you'll lose those changes. So what I'll do now is to copy the data. From the top to the bottom, I'll copy this and I'll paste this in a new sheet. Let's call this sheet the same, category sales, and we paste this here and I give it a name. So for example, category and count. And now we can do some sorting. Let me increase the size of the screen a little bit. I hope this is better to watch. And we can again, just like before, we can select the two columns and go to data, sort range, advanced ranging options. Data has a header row. We don't want to sort it according to category but with count, and we want to do it in descending order. So now we do it, and we can see that this is the category which is doing the best. And then we have electronics, wearable technology, smartwatches, and then the electronics category, and the categories which don't have much subcategories, which don't have many entries. These are occurring only once. Are, for example, also from electronics, secure digital cards, toys and games, coloring pens and markers. These are occurring only once. So for example, from here, you can actually go back to the data and also see further what are the different parameters about those. So for example, if I only want to see what are these 233 entries, I can go back to my sheet. I can see first which are these parameters, go back to the sheet and apply a filter and search for this one. So I only want to see this category. So I don't want to see everything else, but only this one. And now I see all the products which are under USB cables. And now we can go further deeper here. So if, for example, I want to see out of these all USB cables, which one has the highest discount. So now I can select the data, go to sort range, and according to data has a header row, according to discount price Z to A, I can sort, and I can see that okay, this one, the sounds fast phone charging cable, has even a 90% discount, and these are our most discounted values. Within the same category, there are also Samsung's products which don't offer a discount, but they are still doing very good. Again, we don't have the quantity of amount purchased by the user, so we can't calculate if there was sales happening or not, but we can actually identify which of these categories has too many products. And then here we can also make a decision that whether we want to have 233 products of the same category, or do we want to limit something. Much better analysis would be also from the other point of view. For example, here, which of these categories are there? For example, pens and markers. How is the rating of this specific product? Is it good or bad? If it's bad, should we add more products with different brand names in this category from different sources in this category, or is this good enough? So in this way, you can use a pivot table to identify your products, and you can identify which products has which sales to offer, and you can also identify to make decisions if certain products need to be added, certain products need to be removed, and so on and so forth. Now let's go back to our rating problem, our customer satisfaction analysis that we were doing. We can do some similar further analysis on that one as well. Let's create a new pivot table, and this time we would like to identify for our different categories, how do the ratings look like for the different categories. So first of all, let's remove this filter and create a new pivot table. We don't want to create a new sheet, rather a new pivot table. For this, you go to Insert and insert a pivot table. You insert a new one As before, you will select the category as rows, but let's say now we don't want to count how many times each category is occurring. Rather, we want to see how much is the rating of that specific category. So what you can do, again, for values, you can add. This time you don't add category, but this time you add ratings. It asks you, what do you want to do with ratings? We don't want to have a sum of all the ratings. Rather, we would like to have an average of all the ratings. And here we can see, with respect to category, what are the different ratings. Again, like before, let's copy the data and take it to the next sheet. Because as I mentioned, we don't want to make changes to the pivot table. So I'm copying the data and I am creating a new blank sheet. Here we have ratings per category. And we can paste this here. Here we have our category and here we have average rating. And we can sort this. If we will sort this according to the average rating and in ascending order, we will be able to see that our worst performing category is actually home and kitchen electric grinders. But this is still not that bad. The minimum average that we are getting is 3.3. Or, for example, dust covers, it's also not that great. But as soon as we go a little higher, the values basically go to quite high very fast. We can also see that there is no category where the people are 100% satisfied. We have certain categories where people are more satisfied than others. And of course, this is normal. You can't have 100% satisfaction. But if for any category, you may want to see that, okay, what is then wrong with the tablets which are actually bringing down the rating for this specific category, you can then dig deeper. So now, to conclude, what we have done here is we used pivot tables as part of exploratory data analysis by using a combination of sorting, filtering, pivot tables, aggregation, averaging, all in a nutshell, an exploratory data analysis. We were able to dig beyond numbers. We were able to see what those numbers meant, what were the insights, and what trends we could identify. This was exploratory data analytics. In the next module, we will work on data visualization. See you next time.